Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and on this episode of Sonar Fishing, we're going to answer a viewer question from Dustin Harris. Now, this is going to be one that you're just going to have to bear with me because I have to scroll back and forth to read it because it's just a screenshot. But Dustin asks, I have a question about LiveScope. Been looking to get either a Lowrance or Garmin forward-facing sonar and was kind of wondering, in your opinion, which one is better? We've always had Garmin's on our previous boats, but our current one came with Lowrance graphs, and we put our Garmin SV73 on it also. But it just seems like the Lowrance is just kind of more user-friendly and a little less complicated than the Garmin. Just wondering how the two compare to each other. Thank you for all the great videos, man. Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate the question for sure, and I appreciate you watching the channel. And that's a great question because I get that question a ton about Lowrance and Garmin. Very, very good points, because I too think that Lowrance has a easier interface overall. I think it's better in a lot of ways, but I think we need to talk this one out a little bit more. That's why I'm doing it in kind of a longer video. First off, we've got to talk about the forward-facing sonar, because that was the first part of the question. So as far as comparing Garmin with Lowrance, I'd have to say that Garmin has an edge on forward-facing sonar. Now, years ago when, when I say years ago, I mean just a few years ago, when the Garmin LVS32 transducer was the top of the line and you had active target side by side, I think that they were fairly equal. Lowrance and Garmin were pretty much on the same playing field as far as the forward-facing sonar. Clarity, you could even make a case at the time that Lowrance was edged Garmin out just a little bit when they introduced their transducer. But nowadays, since Garmin introduced the LVS34 transducer, I think that Garmin has a distinct advantage over Lowrance in the forward-facing sonar department. The LVS32 34 transducer did a few things. It cleared up the screen. There was less interference. You get way better target separation, and you could see your bait in the fish way out, to further distances. So like 40 feet further than I could see with the LVS32 transducer, at least effectively. So I really think that the Garmin has an edge over Lowrance. So with that being said, let's talk about Lowrance, because I really do agree with what you're saying, Dustin, about Lowrance having a easier and more intuitive user interface. I think, and there's a reason why I have two Lowrances on my boat and just one Garmin, and that's because I've been using Lowrances for a very long time. And that's one thing I want to make clear here is I'm not the world's authority on these two different brands. Okay, if you want somebody's if you want the best opinion you can get, you'd probably want to talk to Jason at bassboatelectronics.com, or just the crew at bassboatelectronics.com in general. They know all the little features and everything. I just use the stuff. So there's a lot of things that I haven't used in the past just because they're not within what I like to do out on the water anyway. So especially with the Garmin, though the most experience I have with the other features that Garmin has other than forward-facing sonar is working in Alaska, guiding in Alaska every year. We have Garmin's up there on most of the boats that I captain, and so I do have some experience with the interface other than just forward-facing sonar. But as far as bass fishing goes, all I'm using it for on my boat is Panoptix LiveScope. It stays on one screen all the time. It's always on that Panoptix LiveScope. So I haven't spent the time, exploring the different features and all that. So I just want to make that clear that I'm a little bit biased because I've been using Lowrance graphs since college, pretty much, so I understand their interface, and so it may be a situation where it's just easier for me because I've been using them for so long. And it may be different, somebody that with a Humminbird that they've been using for a decade might be way more familiar with that, and it may be a better user experience in general for them. So just throwing that out there. But I have to agree, I think that Lowrance has a easier user interface. I think that I love their screen. Their touch screen is the best in my opinion on the HDS series. It's very, very easy to use. It's very responsive. It cleans up nice. I really love their screen, and they also are the best for waypoint and track management. Okay, that's the reason why I like to use them at my console as my primary unit, and at the bow for my mapping and waypoint management and all that. So Lowrance definitely, I think, has the edge on user friendliness and waypoint management and track management and all that, and also the screen. I really love the screen on the Lowrances. So forward-facing sonar, Garmin takes the cake. Now, as far as user friendliness and just overall ease of use, Lowrance, I think, is going to edge out Garmin just a little bit. But, Garmin and Lowrance both have very comparable features overall. So just being able to find that, navigate to those features is kind of the difference between the two, is what is my opinion. But with that said, it's very important to have a unit at the console, especially that you're very familiar with. It's very easy to get where you're going, so you're not wasting a bunch of time figuring out how to get to a certain page or find something. So that's why I definitely agree with your opinion on the user friendliness of Lowrance, and I think that there's nothing wrong personally with having Lowrances as your waypoint management, maybe side scan, down scan, 2D sonar at the console, mapping, and then also have it at the front to be able to have those two units talking to each other for waypoints and stuff like that, and then have a separate Garmin unit, a standalone Garmin unit for Panoptix LiveScope. That's what I would suggest. And I understand that there's a lot of people out there just like, well, I don't want to get more than 2 graphs. I can't afford to get more than 2 graphs, or I don't want to get 2 or 3 graphs if I don't have to. Well, the thing is, if you want to use forward-facing sonar, I really suggest having a designated screen for just forward-facing sonar, because if you put it on just a slice of a screen, and then you got like mapping and then maybe 2D sonar or just mapping on one side, everything's going to be squished. It's going to be so hard to see what you're looking for unless you have like a 16-inch graph, which actually probably isn't a bad idea if you're looking for just one single brand. But I really suggest having a designated screen, even if that's just a 9-inch screen versus a 12-inch screen. I ran a whole season and a half with a 10-inch screen for forward-facing sonar. It worked out pretty good. So you don't have to go to a 12-inch screen. But I do feel like if you're wanting to get the most out of your forward-facing sonar capability, then you want a 10 or a designated screen. So whether that's 10 or 12, it's up to your budget. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having multiple brands. I think back in the day, the norm was to have one brand, so have continuity between the brand at the console and in the front, and not really have any other brands up there. But nowadays, with the technology constantly evolving within each brand, I think it's really a good thing to have multiple brands on your boat. And in this instance, when it comes to the user friendliness of Lowrance and the superiority of the LVS34 transducer, I think that it's a really, really good thing to mix those two. So that's my opinion. If you don't really care about some people consider it slight differences between the LVS34 transducer and active target. I think it's actually a pretty large difference. But if you don't care about those differences as much, you could go with Lowrance, and I think that you'd be very, very happy with those units. Garmin, you'd be happy with those too. As soon as you figure out, and you get comfortable with the user interface, there's nothing wrong with those graphs. But I know that I'm not giving you a completely solid, straight answer, but really it just depends on what your goals are. If your goal is to just have 2 units, maybe Lowrance is the way to go because of that user interface, and they do have a good, viable forward-facing sonar. It is going to do what you need it to do. It just, you know, and they're probably going to update it soon anyway. So everybody's, you know, evolving their technology as it goes. So you might have to just wait a bit for a competitive transducer or update to compete with the LVS34 from Garmin. But anyways, guys, in a roundabout way, I hope that I answered your question, Dustin. It's a really good question. I like both brands a lot, and they both have their differences and the little slight edges over each other. But overall, I don't think that you could go wrong with either of them. It's just based on what you're trying to accomplish: user friendliness or maximum forward-facing sonar potential. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. If you have any questions like Dustin, make sure you drop a comment below to ask that question, and I'm going to answer it to the best of my abilities on a video just like this. Thank you guys so much, and make sure you check out bassboatelectronics.com too. Again, they are the people to talk to about all the little differences. My boy Jason over there, he knows his stuff better than anybody I've ever met, and he can walk you through which brand is going to be better based on what your needs are. So check out bassboatelectronics.com, and I'm going to see you guys out on the water. Take care.